Hey, good morning, Tina.
Good morning, Nadine. How are you?
Oh,
Lovely to see you.
lovely to see you too. What a wonderful morning it is with the sun shining.
Beautiful, really beautiful.
So, oh my goodness. So, I cannot remember even how long it was ago that I met you,
I
but
think it.
that what the moment you came into my life, how it changed. So, you employed
Yeah,
me for Nachiketa. It was a project you were doing.
that's right. It was in. I think it was something like 2013, maybe 2012,
Amazing.
and we had got an arrangement with Opera North. We were going to do some work in progress around this opera, Nachiketa, which had been written by Nigel Osborne,
Yeah.
and is still ongoing.
Um,
Yeah, and I remember we were working in Lambda,
yeah.
the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. We were up in Kensington in
Yeah.
that little room with Prakriti Datta from India, Darren
Yes, yes,
Abrahams,
yes,
Robert Rice,
yes,
Anthony Ingle,
yes,
and Laurie Luxemburg, who you
yes,
spoke to. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's so amazing how people can come together. I mean, I remember you saying to me like, I didn't know how, and you'll talk about this later, how art could be used for activism at that time. And
Mm.
it changed, it opened my eyes. I mean, you really changed my life in that department.
Well,
It,
I think mine had been changed by Nigel Osborne, so I was it was very easy to pass it on.
Good morning, everybody. It is 9:01, and I am Nadine Benjamin, the intuitive Verdi soprano. I'm a certified NLP mind coach. I'm a certified high performance coach. I'm a healer, and also I am a professional opera singer, and I love singing opera all over the world. Today, I have the wonderful guest, Tina Ellen Lee, and I love celebrating, connecting, and championing people. So to have her here today is absolutely wonderful. Tina is the artistic director and producer of a performing arts and youth organisation called Opera Circus, based in the southwest of England. Born in London, Tina was a singer and actress for many years, and now through the company commissions new chamber opera as well as developing international arts and cultural programs, in particular with young people. Tina was awarded a Churchill Finzi Fellowship in 2014 and the European Citizens Prize UK in 2015. Tina, thank you. So lovely to be with you this morning.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
So, as I say every morning, everybody, if you need, Tina and I are not medical doctors or psychiatrists. So, if you do need someone that needs that, please, 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 please encourage them to seek that support, or if you need it, please get the support that you need. We're in a very, challenging time, and as it goes on, we know that we're going to need more support. So please, please, please reach out to it because we absolutely encourage it. So, Tina, tell us, how did you start how did you start as a creative artist?
Um, I have to go back to when I was born. I know we've only got a short amount of time, and I'll try and do this very quickly. But I came from a family of actors. My mum and dad were actors, and I have been told I was kept in a basket backstage during performances. When because they were in rep at the time.
Yeah.
And my brother's a musician, my half brother was a musician, my half sister's a musician, and my mother used to sing. I mean, she had a beautiful voice, although she never really used her voice as a career. And I remember as a child, I was always the one that sang. And all our lives, you can't plan them, you can't plot them. Well, now I'm going to university, and now I'm going to do this. Well, I left home at 16, and I did thousands of other funny little jobs, from restaurants to catering to working in everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a sort of gap in my life where I was doing other things. And I remember, yeah, I don't know, you must have heard of Laura Sarti, the
Yeah.
wonderful opera singer. And I did some work with Laura, and we were talking one night, and she said that she had left opera singing. I think she had a child. I can't remember the details of the story. Anyway, she left opera singing, and she started to get really ill. And she knew that if she didn't, she could die. If she had to go back on stage, she had to go back and sing. And I think she sang quite a lot with Glyndebourne. And I sort of felt a bit the same, and not quite as severe. You know, maybe I'm English, she was Italian, so it wasn't quite so dramatic. But I thought, I just have to try. And so, you know, I didn't go to college. I decided, you know, I was going to try and go to King's and get a BMus or something. And I went into one masterclass, and I thought, they're all 18. They got a lot, you know, by this time I was in my late 20s. So I worked a lot. Laura Sarti, Tina Ruta, you know, numbers of Tina Ruta, yes, and various singing teachers, and then met Federico Davia. And I've been doing a lot of concert work. I was really lucky. I had Julius Drake as an accompanist, and I did a lot of concerts, and started to work with Federico Davia. Many opera singers in this country will know Federico. Wonderful buffo bass, comedian, actor, maverick, painter. And we always used to hear he was coming to London. Federico's in London, book a space. And we'd all go and be sort of tortured. Because what he wanted was the truth, you know, show me the truth. And from there were 4 singers. I mean, there's all these histories on our website, so I won't go into too long. But 4 of us started Opera Circus, and it sort of took off incredibly quickly. And I think we started working with David Glass, which was incredible. We used to go to his mime classes and his physical theatre classes, and we had this sort of passion to create work where we use the operatic voice and physical theatre. And of course, in our naivety, we thought, hey, we can do this. This is great. And of course, you know, it's a lifetime study. You have to be an athlete. You have to, you know, have really secure technique to do it. But we won awards. We toured all over the world. You know, for about 12 years, we created 5 new works. One piece, which was a really silly commedia piece called Kill Me, I Love You, which was a lot about devising and improvisation, went on for 5 years. And then we did a piece called Shameless, which David directed, which personally I think was the best thing we ever did. It was fantastic. And we performed in Peru. We were invited to performing for the King of Thailand's birthday in Bangkok. And, you know, we toured. And then we started touring. The British Council started sending us to Eastern Europe and Central Europe, as well as the Baltic. So we performed a lot in Lithuania. We toured a lot in Romania, which I have to say started my real life as an artist, you know, particularly at that time. And these were countries that were coming out of dictatorships. You know, Ceausescu had been, I think we were in Romania in 1993. So this was still a country that had, you know, 4 years earlier had killed its dictator and his wife. And touring around that country and seeing how important culture was for them. So I think the sort of the change happened for me when we were in Lithuania, and we started to work with State Orphanage 1 and 2 in Vilnius, the capital of city, and beginning to learn how, you know, how art can be used in so many different ways. But we, you know, I carried on. I think in the last year before I stopped singing, I think we did 12 foreign tours.
Wow, that's a lot of work. I've just got to say good morning to Susan and to Lena, because I can see you there. Good morning, wonderful ladies. Really lovely to have you. My gosh, 12 tours.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's a next question that's going to come up after this. But that was the sort of development of me as a sort of, I suppose, as you say, as a creative artist, because we created our own work, we devised our own work, we commissioned it, we performed, we drove the truck. It was wonderful tours in the Highlands and Islands, hysterical stories, you know.
So tell me, who were your influences, and, you know, how did they impact what you did?
Well, I was talking to the deep and wonderful friend and brilliant artist and singer Barb Younger the other day, and she and I were talking about, you know, we're really lucky, we're in the countryside, you know, we've got enough money to live on, you know, not rich or anything, but we can buy food, and as women, we are probably have been born in the best period of time in the whole history of humankind, for women and for artists. You know, we were both born in the 50s. We grew up in the 60s and 70s. And when I was a child living in, well, it was sort of Notting Hill Gate-ish kind of area, my mother was very trusting, but, you know, I could get on the bus at the age of 11 and 12 and go into London, go to the museums, and because they were in the theatre and because she so believed in art, she would get tickets, and she got a little bit famous, so she was able to get really good tickets. And I saw Maria Callas in Tosca.
Oh my God, did you really?
Yes, I can't remember whether it was a very young Pavarotti or Di Stefano, but Scarpia was played by Tito Gobbi. I know, and I've never forgot. It's burnt on the back of my brain. I saw Aretha Franklin. I saw all the great actors. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I was just so lucky. I saw Yehudi Menuhin. It was a rich childhood, and it's sort, in a way that was, well, this is what I want to do. I happened because of my family life. There wasn't any real parental guidance, let's say. so I sort of didn't go, as I said, the traditional route. But then during the period of being an artist, I would say definitely David Klaas taught me hugely about theatre. Monica Pagnot, the great movement teacher, who she ran and she taught at Jacques Lecoq's in Paris for 15 years. She was Peter Brook's movement director for 7 years.
Oh my God.
And when life allows,
give me all your information. My brain now.
No,
Sani, hi Sani. Sani wants a question answered, but I know it's going to come up in the next question. So Sani, it will be answered, I promise you. Morning, my lovely. She will answer it. I know it's coming up in the next question. Mm-hmm. Marjorie, hi Nadine, such amazing motivational stories. And Lena is going, wow.
Wow. Fantastic. But also, people like the great actor, director, writer, Peter Lilly, who does the incredible dark clown work. I mean, I look back and I think Peter taught me so much. She also taught me about my spine, the importance of the spine in performance. We're not 2D people, we're 3D people. And you act with your back, and how your spine is so important to everything else that you do. We were lucky to do a little bit of work with Marcello Magni and Catherine Hunter from Complicité. I mean, it just so lucky. And Peter Brook was absolutely essential to the direction I and the Opera Circus took, because we'd got to a point when we were doing our physical theatre and our voice, and we were trying to do acrobatics. I tried to learn to fly the trapeze. Yeah. And sing, ridiculous. And we started to lose our voices. What's happening here? Why can't I sing in this weird position? Yeah. And so we both went very naively, let's ring Peter Brook, who's in Paris at the Bouffe de Nord. So we pick up the phone and say, can we speak to Peter Brook? Yes, of course, come and see me, my friends. So we went to Paris, and it was like the worst possible dentist appointment. Sitting there in the reception, waiting for God, really. And we go up into his room, and he sits and says, "Tell me, my friends, what's the problem?" So we both. This was David Pearl, who was also a singer. Who another of the singers that really he and I worked together very closely at the beginning of Opera Circus. And we talked at him for about 10 minutes. Oh, this is happening. Blah, blah. And he spoke to us for 3 hours and told us stories. Do I have time to tell one very quick story?
Yeah, go on then.
Very quick story. He said, and it was all about storytelling, all about metaphor. And he said, there was a man who used to go into a cafe every day and have, let's say steak and kidney pie. And it was fantastic. And he loved the chef, and he would go in and, this is delicious. And one day he goes in and says, steak and kidney pie, please. He sits down and he starts eating. And he suddenly stops and said, what have you done to the recipe? The chef says, nothing. It's the same as usual. And he said, it's more delicious. I've never tasted anything like it. And the chef stopped for a moment and went, I made love to my wife this morning. So he put that love into the food. And he was using these kinds of stories for us to think about our artistry, our creativity, why we did what we did, who we thought we were. Yeah. Oh, it was amazing.
Oh, amazing. So yes, as I can see, the questions are starting to come in. So if you do have any questions for Tina, please put them in the chat, and if she can answer them, we will do our best to endeavour to answer them. So, and I know Sani's question will be answered in this, because Sani's question is, why did you stop singing? So I know that's coming in. Say that in your story. But so tell us, this is Artists in Creation 9, and it's all about Opera Circus. So could you tell us about Opera Circus? And, yeah, I mean,
Well, I've already said, there
yeah,
were 4 singers and a pianist who we were working with, Federico. We decided to start the company. And actually, we were really lucky because that night there was I think she was the artistic director of something called Onda, which at that time was the association in Paris that toured art around to the rural areas of Paris. And immediately we got a booking for, I can't remember how many weeks it was. And we went off in our little bus with our ladder and our floor cloth. And we toured the whole of the southwest of France. And, if you talk about the people who went on that tour now, all we can remember is, do you remember the oysters we had after that show? Do you remember that Armagnac? Do you remember? What was that show? Oh, wasn't that food wonderful? So, it's now, we're actually 30 years old next year.
oh
Yeah.
my God.
1991 was the year we started, and we started with this, devising this work. And we went on, as I said, we toured for 10 or 12 years. I can't remember the exact time. And I will explain about getting ill. I think that's the next question, or is it this question?
Whichever one, however you want to do it, wherever.
Well, I can talk about that in more detail, but I did get ill, and also David, who was the other person who was at that time running the company, and was really inspired by. We did a massive, great, I don't know what you call theatre and business project for McKinsey's, the international financial accounting company, in Portugal. Working with 1,600 significant partners, and there are others using theatre to help business people become more creative. And he found his journey through that. He was passionate about that work and has gone on to do some brilliant things. Whereas theatre's my home, so I'm not going to walk out on that. And so, the company, I started to diversify this. I got this illness, which perhaps I think I need to explain perhaps a little bit for artists.
Yeah,
because I was performing, I was raising money, I was touring, I was booking tours, I was driving the truck sometimes, we were traveling. And this final year when we did 12 foreign tours, some of them were small, and there was always financial worries, of course. They continue today. Maybe they're worse today than they were. And I got this immune system disorder, which was fairly foul. And I won't go into details, but on and off it lasted about 7 years. And the first 2 years I couldn't work at all. And if I see these days, if I see an artist, I mean, I suppose it depends on how fragile you are. I don't particularly consider myself fragile, but very simplistically, you walk down the stairs, you're producing, directing, touring, etc., and your desk is on one side and your piano for warming up your voice and doing your exercises on the other. The part of the brain that does the producing is much, much stronger. The fragility and the space and the creativity you need in order to concentrate on yourself as an artist, it's fragile. It needs protecting. And to put it very simply, that division broke my heart. You put it in the creative terms. And that caused, somebody said to me, your whole system is made up of links, your whole physical, emotional system, and a link will break, a weakness will appear. And that's how I got the immune system disorder. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. And I remember as I began to deal with it with medication and things, I thought, well, what am I going to do? What do I do with my life? And I did carry on performing a little bit. I carried on doing the improvisatory work we did, because Impropera, that wonderful improvisatory company, started out of Opera Circus as well. And in the end, I realized, you can't be the athlete you need to be as a proper singer. You can't just pick it up and drop it down. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start creating new work. I've always done that, but maybe I can start doing that as a principal thing. And I also met Nigel Osborne while we were touring in Georgia in 1997. And just by, luck, I'm a great believer in luck, being in the right place, meeting the right people, which is why networking is so important. Somebody said, it was one of our board members, Ian Ritchie, the great Ian Ritchie, said, would you like to work with Nigel Osborne? He'd rather like to see if he can create an opera out of Sevda, which is the art music of Bosnia, of the Balkans. Would we like to work with Nigel Osborne? Yes, please. And in 2004, we started an ongoing relationship, and we're still working together now. We've done 2 operas together. We've done numbers of concerts. But we started working on this Bosnian opera, and what he'd do very cleverly is he'd seduce us over to Croatia, where every summer he has this summer music camp for disabled children, children with trauma, orphans, and this beautiful part of, by the sea in Croatia. And we would do a bit of rehearsal here, and then let's go look after some children. A little bit of rehearsal, let's go look after some children. And it grew in me, and the knowledge, I learned so much from Nigel. And while we produced the opera, which was a great success, beautiful piece. Some of it's online. We toured Bosnia, and we were in Mostar, and a local organization from Srebrenica, Bosnia, I'm sure everybody knows what happened in Srebrenica, said, would you come and meet some young people in Srebrenica who want to learn how to be better artists? Because they've started a children's music theatre. Now, these young people were 14, 15, and they were working with young children because they believed that they could heal the division in their town through music and theatre. And for a while, they did. I mean, the times are too difficult. They very sadly, because of international politics and international failures, the town is slowly dying. But that was the beginning. And I remember walking into this room with these I have to say, incredibly beautiful young people. And they were sitting around looking at me thinking, oh, here we go, another white do-gooder, another woman who wants to come and deal with their own emotional tragedies by coming somewhere where 10,000 people were killed. And then I turned to them and I said, and this is something we'll come back to at the end. I said, how can I be useful? And they looked at me and thought, this is different. Somebody's not coming in and imposing what they want to do with us. And one said, I'd like to learn to dance. I'd like to learn more about music. I'd like to learn more about lighting. And they were really the beginning of all the work that Opera Circus has done with young people since. I mean, obviously, we've worked on performance as well. So I started bringing artists there, and young people started coming from Dorset and various other parts of England. And then we started applying for funding, European funding and international funding, and reasonably successfully. And so we brought young people from Bosnia to Bridport in Dorset. And that began this whole process that is now, depending on funding up and down, is this thing called the Complete Freedom of Truth, which is a rather, if you're going to use official terms, participatory arts, informal, non-formal, if you're going to talk EU language, non-formal participatory arts. But it's basically, I think, if you actually said to me what it's really about, it's me remembering the opportunities that I had as a child to really understand how arts have to be a bedrock in your life, whether you're an artist or not. I don't think it matters if you're an artist, but your life is just to say it's bigger in many ways. It's bigger if you can access the arts, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I just love that kind of whole ethos, about how can I be useful. I just find that, and and I've been inspired and influenced by the work of Opera Circus, and have done a different version of that with Everybody Can. By whoever works with Everybody Can, it's because they want to try something new, and it's something that they love to do, it's value to them, and it does change lives, and it's oh my gosh, I just you're just so amazing. I just find you So we talked about the illness, we talked about Opera Circus. So at the moment, Opera Circus has come up with this new opera that it's doing, like the snails.
Yes, the lovely snails. I was saying to you about how important creating a network is. I was working with, I was a member of something called the International Women's Forum for years, which I eventually left because, they're more business orientated and I'm much less business orientated. It's an understatement. But what I did do is I met a huge number of women who I would never have met before. And a lot of them were American women, and they are brilliant at what they call networking. I mean, you can call it what you like, communicating, collaborating.
I like calling it relationships. But
Yes, yes.
We all have our
and to do it for no purpose. You know, the
yeah,
number of conversations I've said, I've said to, why don't you go and have a coffee with so-and-so? Why? What's the point? You no idea. You've absolutely no idea. But I met some people there, and eventually I was invited to Salzburg to the global seminars there. And it was a global seminar called Building Peace Through the Arts. And again, 60 people in the room from all over the world, from Cambodia to South Africa, who were doing incredible work after genocides. And one of the people there, apart from Nigel, was Osman Kavala. And Osman Kavala is a human rights activist, most extraordinary man, wonderful man, who, for whatever reason of the Turkish government of Erdogan, was arrested 920 days ago, and thrown into prison and accused of being a traitor, of trying to disrupt the government. And I think for all intents and purposes, it's not true. And the European Court of Human Rights have said that there's no evidence and he should be released. And Nigel and I became involved with a small team, and there are lots of small teams and bigger teams who are trying to release not only him, but the large number of journalists and activists and writers and human rights activists that are in jail in Turkey at the moment. But we'd met Osman, so we had a relationship with him, and such a lovely man, so good, has helped so many people. And so I think there's an open democracy. It's individuals working together. And one of them, of course, is the woman who runs the Salzburg Global Seminars. So we've tried to get the Nobel Peace Prize for him. We've tried to do all sorts of things, writing letters to MPs, etc. And then this story came out in the papers. Osman has always been a lover of animals. And he's in solitary confinement. So, we're all locked down. But you imagine solitary confinement in a nasty jail, poor food, 920 days, with the possibility of, if you're convicted, of the death sentence. Anyway, one day a guard comes in with a plate of salad for him and puts it down, and Osman notices that there's a pair of snails on the salad, and he makes them his friends, he makes them his pets. And so we were chattering away, and somebody within our small team said to Nigel as a joke, "Oh, you should write an opera about this." And immediately, of course, Nigel being Nigel, yes! So he rushes off, and over 2 nights, he writes a 9.5-minute opera with the lawyer, the prison guard, the 2 snails, one of which you are, and Osman. And we've had, as you know, we've had extraordinary technical problems and times trying to put everybody's phone filmed bits of music and performance together. And of course, this is being done by the great filmmaker Robert Golden. And, as Nigel says, it's a lockdown opera, meaning we have done what we can with the technology. But the music today is being smoothed out, let us say, by Mikael, who runs an organization called Beats Across Borders in Denmark. So singer in Australia, singers in the UK, sound going on in Denmark. And we've actually, yesterday we had the Turkish translation of the libretto by one of Osman's oldest friends.
Oh, amazing.
So now they're trying to put it underneath the English subtitles on the film. So hopefully within the next few days, you'll get to see it. Everybody will approve. And we're going to send it out to the world saying, could this perhaps make you change your mind and release this man? It's a tiny thing, but it's arts to make people smile. And if it does its job, you never know. You never know. Erdogan could be sitting there with his cup of coffee going, "Oh, that made me smile." Let the man out.
I'm just telling you, I always thought that I wasn't political, and you really showed me, and really taught me that, I remember asking you, but I said, "I'm not political." You were like, "Everything's political."
It is.
I didn't kind of understand it, and I've had to ask lots of questions, and it takes time, and and to realize the way that I do it, and and also to realize that I'm quite quiet about things, and I'd rather have smaller conversations, and that's okay too. But I thought because I wasn't doing something big, but being effective enough. But through you and your work, that's really taught me that we can do quite a lot of activism through our art. Really, really, really changed his life, and you've inspired that in me. So thank you.
Good.
Really,
Well,
really.
I was watching one of the, anybody's out there wants to see wonderful conversations going on for free at the moment. Hey Festival, it's all online, and there's actors, writers, artists, political people. And yesterday I listened to an immunologist, and he's a Jewish immunologist, and at one point he talks about a scientist who had invented a particular form of cancer cure. And he was standing next to a very beautiful American young woman, and he discovered this cure just in time to save this young woman from dying. She'd been given a number of months to live, and she's still alive. This was decades ago. And this immunologist said, I do read the Talmud, and he said, in the Talmud, you save one person, you save the world.
Absolutely.
And I've always thought about the work with young people. You change the life of, or one young person chooses to change his own life because of what you've offered. That's enough.
Absolutely.
I get really fed up with everything has to be scaled up, everything has to be disseminated. I'm sorry. Some things are too fragile.
Yes.
Some things I can do, we can only do 1-to-1, 1-to-5.
Yeah.
So
Gabby is saying wonderful memories, love it. And Sani's saying art is politics. Stimmt.
Yep. Absolutely.
Lovely stuff. So have you got talking about these 3 tips that could share with us to kind of, help us all along our journeys of development? So what would they be?
Okay, well, I said to you, I'm going to set 3 short stories if I can remember them. Yeah. The first one was when Nigel decided he wanted to do Nachiketa with Ariel Dorfman. They both sent me off to find Peter Sellers, the great opera theatre director and professor. And of course, as people at that level, they don't give you a mobile number. They go and get in touch with Peter. 6 months later, the phone rings and Peter says, "Hi, I'm in Aix-en-Provence. Come down and have a chat." What a lovely man! It was like seeing a young Peter Brook, similar wisdom, similar advice and guidance. And we talked for about an hour and a half, and he was so wise. And he told me this story because Nigel and Ariel wanted to do this really dark story called Widows, which is a beautiful play and a book and all the rest of it, but it's about death in Chile. And Peter said to me, people know all this stuff, you have to find something else. And he said, let me tell you a story. He said, I was working with the Hanoi Youth Theatre, and we had devised a play about AIDS as an educational piece, and we were taking it around the villages. And I was watching one afternoon thinking, I said, no, it's just not strong enough. I'm not telling this story strongly enough. And afterwards, a young man came up to him and said, Mr. Sellers, thank you so much for coming and telling us all this. But we know this. And when are you going to tell me something I don't know? Yes. And he said his whole work changed from then on. And so that would be the first tip. Artists are there to tell people things they don't know, not things they know. The second thing was about some young people. Some young artists we sent to Serbia, to Belgrade, to do 2 weeks of anything they felt like with other young artists. And one young dancer came back to Dorset and said to me, totally and utterly moved, she said, they just make art. I mean, there's no funding for art in Serbia. They just make art. They go out in the streets, they find a broken down building, they choreograph stuff, they dance. And I come back here and I sit there going, I can't do anything because I don't have any funding. I don't have a room. I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
And, and she's now a dancer and choreographer. She did it. And, I think if you're an artist, you make art. Maybe I know there's this terrible tragedy going on at the moment. And, we're doing all sorts of stuff down in Dorset to help other artists. And, but you make art.
Oh my God. Tina, I cannot tell you how much I agree with that at the moment. Having been somebody who's had the experience of what's been going on and just and have been ill and and all the rest of it. And actually, I know that I'm an artist. Every day I serve as an artist.
Yeah.
And to not get caught up in the emotional contagion of it.
Yeah.
You know.
There's a young woman who's got some physical disabilities that has worked across the arts in Dorset. And I saw she put something up online recently, and it's a physical disability, so she can walk and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Very bright girl.
Yeah.
But she has trained in a lot of different art forms, and she decided she got her street out into the road, and she taught them line dancing. And there she was, sort of, limping along, teaching, and everybody was dancing with her. And the final thing is, which goes on from that, is I remember hearing Tony Benn, the great politician, before he died, talking about, somebody asked him that silly question, what would you put on your gravestone? And he thought a minute and he said, he was useful.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Chichi is just saying, Chichi, who's the founder of Tunicaid Opera Circus.
Oh, I know Chichi. We were on the stage together at the Guildhall.
Oh,
last year. Yeah.
And Sani is saying, I know people think you need money to make art, so they stop. Did they really start? He said, money can kill creativity, artists, art, amen. That's what Sani said.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't read somebody called Francois Matarasso on his website called Parliament of Dreams, he's one of our great cultural writers, and you won't agree with everything he says, but in terms of, and he isn't an artist, he's just been a supporter and writer about community art for years. Very wise. He wrote something really, really good yesterday, and I think it would help people.
Lena is just saying, wise man, and best prime minister we ever had.
Yeah, I agree.
Or we never had. And Laurie is saying,
get rid of money. Oh well, I think I have one more. I mean, there's so much I could talk about, about politics and art and all the rest of it. But I would say that I think, there's something that Francois Matarasso said a couple of days ago, which have we reached peak culture in this country? And I think that's, for artists, is something really serious to think about. What we make, how we make it, and not all of it has to be useful. I was going to say something else as well. Yes. And I think that over the years, we've allowed the wrong people to lead the conversations about art and creativity in this country. I think that it needs to be, I was doing something in Brussels with something called Voices of Culture a couple of years ago, which was about, they call it a structured dialogue, meaning a lot of people get in a room and have a conversation. But the outcome, really and honestly, was that top down doesn't work, bottom up works. How can the top know the needs of the bottom up? And I'm not saying artists are at the bottom, but the fact that our Minister of Culture has set up a task force with no artists on it, and it's full of businessmen. Wonderworld? What is Wonderworld? Director of Wonderworld? Somebody who founded lastminute.com, talking about, let us come up with creative ideas to sort out our artists. Ask the artists.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to start ranting, so I'm going to stop.
Thank you. I mean, you're just incredible. You just always leave me speechless. So I just want to listen to you all day, and I'm sure everybody else.
It's lovely talking to you, as always.
So lovely for you to have spent the time with us all this morning. But tomorrow we're going to have Jason Cooper on, who's a businessman and a coach, and he'll be talking about how to get through in business at this time and come up with some creative suggestions around that. And Laurie is just, so Sani is just saying, what does Tina think of fun palaces?
What's a fun palace?
Yeah, we don't know what
what's a fun palace?
Yeah, and Laurie is saying, I'm sitting here screaming in agreement. Oh, that's so wonderful. And Lena is saying, could listen to you all day. And yeah, she's a wonderful woman. So, Sani, if you can be quick and just let us know what you mean by fun palaces, that would be great, before as Tina leads us out with her final thoughts. And if after she's done her final thoughts, we see what your questions are, then we'll see if we can get it answered. But just overall, it doesn't even have to be about what we spoke about, Tina. Just of your generous wisdom that you have, that is just divinely ordained, as we all are as artists.
Oh goodness.
But what would be your final thoughts for today, Wednesday?
I would honestly say really basic thing that I learned through working with all those extraordinary, amazing young people and many artists over the years. Whether we've been in whatever country we happen to be in, at the root of, let's say, at the root of all our work is the word kindness. We've become a very resentful world, very resentful culture, and kindness can create environments where the best work can happen, whatever that work is.
And I often find that kindness, even what I'm still learning, even with my own journey, is that kindness starts, and as well as we having unconditional love for everyone else, we must have that unconditional love for ourselves. So it's just that thing of like love for everybody, but like have that unconditional love for yourself, have that compassion for yourself as well, because that's what makes us have more compassion for everybody else, which is so important. But I hear you with the kindness. Thank you. Sani says, everyone is an artist, community-based art. Joan Littlewood, Cedric Price.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, Sani. I think for me, I think that everybody can be an artist, whatever you happen to do. But I think that there's also I think what's tended to happen in our society is that, you either have one thing or you have the other. One negates the other. So when we had site-specific work, it negated theatres. When we had, community art, it negates. The fact that the Arts Council have used the word art only twice in their next, the 10-year strategy they have at the moment. So you have community art, therefore, elitist art, which is created through politics. No art is elitist. It becomes elitist when it's used for political reasons, or it becomes too expensive. It's big enough. The world is, art is big enough to embrace everything. And, I love seeing the young people I work with create a devised performance, but I also want to go and see the greatest singer in the world or the greatest actor in the world and have my heart explode out of my body and walk out of a theatre thinking, oh, life has changed. Something's different. Don't say it's one or the other, which a lot of people do.
Oh, Tina, thank you so much. You are an inspiration to so many people. I mean, I know you know this, and the amount of people the lives that you've touched, your work, your willingness to be patient, to understand, to listen, to send hope, not just to the people that, have this want to develop, but the people that want to do the work that you do. You're just such a phenomenal woman. And I think you really are, and I just thank you for the way you think, for the conversations that you make sure happen. For the limits that you go to, because you go beyond your own limits as well. I mean, I've seen you're willing to really step up all the time for the things that you believe in, and I thank you for being such a great role model to me and for showing. Just everyone that it can be done just a day at a time. And when things don't work out, just find another route, just keep going, and keep having these up. And as you're doing, even with Machicata, I mean, it's just wondrous, It hasn't been able to be used this year as the plan was, but you're finding new routes to make Machicata happen. And I love that in you. Thank you so much. And everybody here, Nina saying thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Saying thank you. Just thank you for being one of these wonderful human beings that are on this earth.
Thanks for inviting me, Nadine. Lots of love. Hope to see you soon. Okay.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.